another glorious day here on Reaper Pro-Tips. Welcome back. This is me, your host, Anne, and we also have Disembodied Hands, Justin, who hopefully has recovered from ReaperCon. Hopefully we all have recovered from ReaperCon at this point. We've had a week. No more excuses. What do you guys think? Is it a happy Monday? I think it's a pretty happy Monday for me. We have a Lysette today. Actually, I should look at her while I talk to you guys. I should look at her and see what we have to do. She's getting really close. And that means we need to start thinking about a base if we're going to do a base. I don't know though. I don't know if I'm going to do a base on her. She comes with a perfectly good cobblestone base, so maybe I'll use I'll have to see. Oh, that's right. We were doing our tree. Oh, right. Tree. I remember now. Tree. So we'll finish working on tree today. That sounds like a lovely plan. And I still need to glaze back here. I just realized that. So maybe we'll do that first. Happy Monday. Finally done clearing up from the flooding in your home. Oh, I'm so sorry, Star Wars Geek. I'm so sorry. That must have been so harrowing. I'm really sorry. But I'm glad that you're done cleaning up. And I hope you feel much better. And I hope your house is okay. Everybody's like, yeah, it's Monday. It's Monday, Anne. It's Monday. All right. Go to the thing. The thing and the stuff. Remember this? Yeah. For those who are keeping track, Lysette Elven Mage, the first of the Bones USA. Ugh, and there's something in the air today, so if I have to blow my nose a couple of times, sorry. Apologies. Just because California is trying to stop me up today. It happens. Environmental allergies are a thing. All right, so let's do... Got a little dust on my thingy here. Dust because I was working with a new thing. A new tool that Lovejoy showed me at the con. So... I was working with it, and I'm talking about it in my new $2 video, which should be out later today. On my Patreon, which is patreon.com/paintingbig. And thank you, everybody, for supporting me, as you do. It really does make me, a happier Anne. It keeps me going. It keeps me creative. So thanks. All right, let us see. Yeah, let's do a glaze first to warm up. Because remember what we did is to make this look less green and more yellow, we put actually an orangey yellow glaze over the top. And that counteracts, it makes it look a little less chartreuse. But this is definitely a warmer, more yellowy green than this. So I think we need to do that. Oh, 22 months, two more hamster for your hamsterversary. Double hamsterversary. Do I have to do instead of a subiversary, is it a double hamsterversary? Woohoo. Oh, there's an exclamation point for Anne's things. Is that for the secret tool? There you go. There you go. Yay. Thanks, John. Thanks for writing her. And so we also have Disembodied Hands, John. In addition to Disembodied Hands, Justin. We have double awesome today. Both the boys. I'm just grabbing my paint caddy and rolling it over here so that we have access to all of our glorious paint. Boop. I still have to do a little bit of org on the bookshelf back here. It's just kind of a staging area for crap at this point. You know how you get those? A staging area for crap. So we're still I'm getting closer, right? But I'm still moving. Oh yeah, exactly. Thanks for the Kiri face, Crowley. Yeah, I know, we didn't, you sounded like you were just, your voice was dying. Mine sounded like that after the first stage on, and then I just, went and hit it with, honey and hot tea and, rested it, made a point of not talking all the time for the rest of the con, and it just barely saved me in time for the award ceremony. All right, let's grab an orangey yellow. So you could use a couple different things to do this kind of thing. Either of these will work. They're both orangey. Candlelight essentially makes a good highlight for lantern. Lantern is a more orangey yellow. Lantern also is a little more translucent though, so because this color has more white in it, and as you can see, right? So This one is a little better for glazing, and it's what we were originally using. Even though it looks like these two colors won't work, when you thin down lantern yellow, it's an orange shade yellow is what this is called. It will go much more of a true yellow than you think it will. Yeah, the Bones USA material is really nice. Disembodied beard John. Yeah! I'm with that. I'm on board with that, Iffy. I'm all about it, in fact. So yeah, so let's back off a bit here and show the mixing. Got it. Oh no, I didn't clean quite well enough. That's all right. I'll get it next time. The palette cleans up really well in general, but sometimes if I leave it go a little bit too long and I don't scrub it quite as good as I should, it'll have little bits and stuff. So let's build a glaze. Let's just put down 1 drop of lantern yellow. Good morning, Inara. Yeah, I like the Bones USA. I hope they can scale up the operation and do more because I think they're really good. I'm going to do 4 to 1. Or sorry, 1 to 4, which normally breaks the paint. But with a glaze, you don't care about breaking the paint because you're putting it on in a really thin layer and you're not letting it pool. That is key. And let's find a fatter brush. I think I want... You usually want to use a slightly larger brush, so let's grab our Raphael. Because when you're doing big areas like this, you definitely want to move over the area as fast as you can before it starts to dry, and you want to have extra time to kind of wick off stuff. So you want to be able to hit all these areas. So this is still really a strong paint. You can see how heavily pigmented Lantern is in that even after we hit it with 4 drops of water to 1 drop of paint, it's still actually really strong in color. Like this is a little bit, it might be a little bit much for glazing. I might actually need 1 more. Hey there, green users. Two separate NPCs. Yeah, Fangod. That's pretty awesome. And good morning, Mage. Yes, top o da morning. So yeah, even at a 1 to 4 ratio, this is still really strong. I think I'm going to grab 1 more drop of water. That's 1 to 5 for a glaze. And you always want to kind of experiment because even though I give you general glaze guidelines in the Thinning MSP Paints PDF on my Patreon and the video that I did for Reaper, the class I did for ReaperCon back in 2020, that is up on Reaper's YouTube. It'll change, right? Glazing, every ratio you get is going to change depending on the amount of white in the paint, depending on the pigment in the paint. It's always going to change just a little bit. So let's see here. No, not at all, Julia. Like, I've still got to do a swoopy Celtic tree back here. And I've got to, like, glaze a little bit there. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, we haven't finished the NMM gold back here. We haven't finished the NMM gold runes on the front of the sword. Yeah, so essentially, and I haven't done the NMM silver either on the buckles or any of that. So, yeah, there's actually quite a bit. There's at least 3 more streams, I would think, depending on how far we get with our Celtic tree, our swirly tree here, which I actually should pick out. I should grab my reference for that, which I have. Pretty. All right, let's see here. All photos. There's our tree. This is our tree reference. For roughly what we're doing, we're scaling the tree. So in other words, we won't be able to do this full design. We are simplifying it. And I mocked in a couple of the branches just in general. Then today we will actually finish figuring out this branch, and we'll do what we can. And probably put in the roots as well. So we'll do as much as we can, just line drawing in the rest of the tree, and then we'll fill it out. Like we started to do on the trunk here. Patreon.com/paintingbig. John actually linked it in the chat a little bit earlier. But patreon.com/paintingbig. I have free stuff up there, and one of them is the Thinning MSP Paints PDF. And you can find that free class on Reaper Miniatures Twitch. Or sorry, Reaper Miniatures YouTube. It was on the Twitch, but now it's on the YouTube. All these social medias. How am I supposed to keep track of all this? No problemo. But yeah, so we've got quite a bit to do on Lysette yet, Julia. There's always, that's the difference, guys, between like a bronze level paint job and like a tabletop gaming, like good quality, decent quality paint job, and the paint job that you do that's really, really good is you don't forget to pay attention to the little details. You have to make sure that every little thing is painted and highlighted and shaded. And then that's when the model like reaches the pinnacle of, you know, what you can do with it. So it's the amount of futzing, I always said. The amount of futzing is what separates a decent tabletop model from a competition model, would be the amount of futzing. So yeah, spending a lot of extra time just kind of hitting all of these, like highlighting the straps like we did and all this. So there's our glaze. Let's kind of test it. It should look like colored water. That's a little bit better. I feel a little bit more confident there. But you can see when I take it out of the well and I smear it onto this palette, it actually looks like a normal yellow. Like it doesn't look nearly as orange. So that's key. So we'll try it on one of these sleeves here. We'll just kind of brush it all right over the top. Then I'm going to rinse out my brush super fast, come back, and wherever it's pooling, or wherever this little piece of lint snuck onto my model, I'm going to pull it off. So just around the edges, make sure that it's not actually brushed over the top. I already did the front, so I don't need to actually go around the arm here. But you can see how pasty this looks, and look how rich of a yellow that looks now. It's very different. Yeah, well, when we do, since we have a 6 model rotation, Julia, so there are 5 models in between every time we do Lysette. So essentially more than a week passes before I get back to any given model. So even if you've been away for 3 or 4 weeks, then you would only missed like 3 shows of her, like 3 hour-and-a-halves. So it's likely, especially if I'm doing fancy freehand or other things that take a lot of time, and especially if we had a show where I did a lot of talking and answering questions more than I did painting, that, you know, it takes us a while to finish these. And she's got a lot of stuff on her. The simpler the model, the faster it goes. But yeah, because she has so many models, plus there was ReaperCon in there, where I had a whole week where I didn't do anything, because I was at ReaperCon doing things there. So yeah. And then moving. If you haven't been on for a while, like I had to move into the new house, and we did that a week before ReaperCon. Because we're nuts. So really I've had a lot of non-productive pro tips time lately. And at the end of this month, assuming the state of Hawaii does not decide not to allow tourists for a while. But at the end of this month, we're going to Hawaii. Which I have to remind John and Justin. Hey, John, this is your official reminder. That from the 28th, I have a calendar in here somewhere. 25th, 26th, no, 27th, the week of the 27th through the beginning of October. I think it's October 1st. I will be in Hawaii on a beach, or climbing a mountain, or snorkeling. Dance of Death Shotakami, we have it, like, I finished it. Like, I finished it off camera for Ron. Super fast. Before I moved to California, last year in April. Oh, I love Poke Bowls. They're my favorites. Like, I could eat Poke Bowls every day. That was always my treat crows when I was, like, when we lived at the old apartment, because I had two really good Poke Bowl places within walking distance. Like, just, like, within a couple to 5 blocks. It was ridiculous. It's a wonder I didn't, like, you know, totally go out of control and splurge. Yeah, I do need to definitely take pictures and show you guys. That's for sure. So, let's grab this and glaze. You learned a lot, but the thing is, Shotakami, that after a while you couldn't learn anymore because it was just all the same thing. It was always more dragon scales. That's why I won't ever do a piece like that again, is that there's a limit as to what you can learn on any given model, especially when you've got a lot of a particular texture or a particular color. But yeah, at the time that I quit it, at the time that we essentially finished it, it was almost completely done. I just had to finish a tail, I think. We did everything else on stream, so it's not, you can go back and watch them if you need help again. One thing I brought up, so there we go, really quick, start at one side, go across the model, guys. Always end kind of in the shadow of a fold if you're doing this kind of thing, because then you won't ever see a demarcation line. This was a pretty thin layer, and I don't think anything pooled, but I'll still rinse my brush and kind of wick away at the edges, just in case. Yeah, so it was very repetitive, and we lost a lot of people because of that. So I won't ever do that again. In fact, while we're working on this dude, essentially, he's got a lot of metal. And after I do a hand and the leather and stuff, we may really kind of run out of new things to talk about on this guy. So he may not get finished on stream. This is the peril of doing a big model, because it does get very repetitive and there's only so much you can talk about. So I was thinking about this the other day, because that's why I stopped the Fire Giant King, is that once I did a very large portion of him, anything else would have been very repetitive. So yeah. Yeah, if I did a large dragon myself, I would use the airbrush to base coat it for sure. This glaze is Lantern Yellow, Thormel. It's to warm up the greenish. You don't want to lose the green, because we wanted to do a cool yellow on her dress. But we also want it to look yellow and not green, and the green tends to very much take over the yellow. So the way to get around that, and we already did this on the front side, the way to get your yellow a little bit richer is to glaze with a warm yellow over the green. And you don't want to use an actual orange. This is important. Lantern Yellow is kind of an orange-faced clear bright. It's there are two different yellows in the world, two different yellow pigments. Actually, there are three if you count yellow oxide. And one of them is greenish and one of them is orangish. And so you don't want to use something that has a lot of red pigment in it, because it's going to maybe gray out your colors a bit here. You want to more use something that's a single pigment. Maybe, but it's all on YouTube, Inara. So, like, I can always tell them, hey, we painted a lot of the bronze golem on YouTube. Because once I will be honest with you guys, once I put a model down because I've lost interest in it, it's going to stay down. Like, there are very few models where if I decide that I'm not into it and I'm not I'd have to be super happy with it to keep going. So yeah, it's I mean, I'm like a lot of painters that way, right? When you lose love for a project, it goes and sits on the shelf. It could sit on the shelf for 2 or 3 years. Like, it might never come back. Or you might look at it and go, part of this turned out really well, and I think I really want to pick it up and finish it. I'm more likely to do that, though, if it's a model for myself, where I'm like, if I'm doing it, if I started it for competition or for something, and I really just felt like it was really good, but I just didn't have time for it at a particular time, I'm much more likely to come back for those minis than I am for a Pro-Tips mini, where usually I'm painting fairly fast, and sometimes I'm really happy with them, and that keeps me going on them, even if it is a little bit repetitive. But with that one, so much of it is metal. So I want to make sure that I cover it enough times over the coming months that you guys get, like, the full benefit of, like, how we do metals this way. But there will come a point, probably, where it's just like, I can't do anything new and unusual on this one. Yes, watch out which keyboard you are typing on. No, Shotakami, every painter on Earth that I've ever met abandons a project in disgust. Every single one. And often, they do it at the last minute. Like, this is the great irony of creativity, is that you are most likely to stop a project when you are within spitting distance of the end line. And you must push through those. That's like a human creativity thing. Some people think it's tied to kind of the fear of finishing it and not fulfilling your own expectations on the project. But whatever the case, the inner push gets harder as you get closer to done. And you must fight that. You must go through. Usually when you sit down and you make yourself finish that model, it's less than 2 hours of work. And you're like, whoa, like it's just 2 hours. Now it's done and I feel great. But for some reason, our psyches, they push against us at that last, it's always like, when you're in sight of the finish line is when it's most dangerous. And that is a human thing. It's true in writing. It's true in painting. It's true in almost every creative thing. Because if you don't have a job deadline that forces you to do it, like, then you have to force yourself to do it. You have to understand that, hey, this is just some weird psychological thing. It's not that I actually hate this model because I actually really like it and I just need to finish it. If you have to put on a podcast or you have to put on, your favorite movie while you do it to distract you, do it. Or in my case, I just put on some tunes and then I get in the zone. But yeah, so you've got to like do that kind of thing. Yeah, it's so true, right? Yeah, Uyu, exactly. Uyu Lala. It's everywhere, Layla, I guess, probably. But yeah, it's true of everybody. There are books written about this. So, I mean, if you want to, read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. He gets a little mystical when it comes down to the muse at the end, because that's just his type of thing. But everything he says about resistance and like how the artist has such a hard time fighting it to actually sit down and do your work, how like suddenly you find yourself changing the cat litter box instead of sitting down to paint. Yeah, that's something your psyche is doing to you. And, he personifies it as a separate force, but it's the way he talks about it is absolutely the experience of most artists. So, but yeah, for sure. Yeah, when you just need to finish it. Exactly. That's when it's dangerous. And I think the key here is, in my experience, to remind myself, like to just kind of sit down and imagine it done and imagine how good I'm going to feel when it's done and how happy I'm going to be with it. And that gets me, like, then I'll just do it. And like I said, putting on something on the TV or something, in your ears, an audiobook, podcast, music, whatever is a good thing for you to kind of just get in the zone and not sit and think, oh, I really don't want to do this. Anything to distract you while you do it. Sometimes when I'm pushing through the tail end of a commission, it gets so hard because that one's not even that project that I would have chosen for myself. And so then it really is I need to put on a motivational book, or I need to just put on some music or something that's going to distract me and have me just kind of trick myself into doing it. Because once I'm actually in the chair and working on it, I usually can find something to like about the process. Because with painting, there's always something. It's not really a slog. There's always something to like about the process when you're finishing it. So you can do whatever you want. If you've got a magic thing, like, okay, a lot of writers have magic things, meaning that they've got their lucky pen or their lucky poster, or their lucky earbuds, their lucky whatever, right? And so they'll essentially grab their lucky whatever and set up like a barricade of like luck and fortune around themselves, and then they will work. And that will help them get through it. But whatever you have to do to get yourself to work it. Yeah, the Reaper Challenge League is a really good thing for that, right, Kerniko? That's why I like it. Like, even though you're usually painting faster, and so you may not be painting necessarily better, it's an excuse for you to play with new things, to get yourself out of the box, and that can be really good for breaking like, when you're stumped. Painting funk. Painter's block. Yeah. I make my models fight for me, like Mage. What I do is I just pretty much, and I'm going to get to this point like very soon now that I've figured out where everybody goes and found a place for everybody after the move. But I'm going to essentially get out all the models that I haven't already packed away, put them in front of me in a big fan zone on the carpet, and just make them fight. Like, pick up every single one and compare it to another and say, which of these would I rather paint? And then the one that is least happy gets put aside into a box, right? And in that way, like I narrow it down to like 2 models or whatever. And then I feel like starting those, right? Because I've let myself kind of think about them. And if I don't have a color scheme for a model, then it gets put aside. Like what I'm looking for among all my models, and come on, we all have a closet full of models that we can do this with, right? What I'm looking for is the model that says, ooh, I want to be red or whatever color. And ooh, you really want to paint me right now. That's what I'm looking for. And that's the project that I start. So if I have at least a general idea, once I have one color to start with, I can work out from that. Like that's what all the core of my color theory classes teach you, is how to start with one color and work outward to find other colors just that will work with that first color. Oh, good. Yeah, Paint Club on the Reaper forums. Yeah, it's fight, exactly. Yeah, and that works too, right, Mage? At least you're painting. Yes, groups can be great. Like, I'm a loner at heart, but groups can still be very encouraging and really get you psyched, because then you've got people who are excited about your project too. It's not just you, right? So that supportive group of people is absolutely awesome. All right, so we're going to put another layer now that this is dried. See, talking to you guys gave us time for the glaze, to be fair, dries pretty darn fast. And the reason I'm doing this now instead of after I do more of the tree guys is that I do want that strong green for the tree. I think we used wilderness. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did. And if I put this oranginess over the dark green, it's going to tend to mute it a little bit. We won't get as strong of a green. So I'm just going to do it right now. It's not going to be heavy enough to cover over any of the sketched out freehand that we've been doing. So, but yeah, making your minis fight for your love, that's pretty cool. And then I may make my paints do the same thing, right? Like I've got most of the paints that I really like to use, like kind of organized in my drawer here. And I'll just kind of look at them and think about, like, maybe I'll pick out like 10 or 12, and then I'll be like, and I'll hold up the model next to it, and I'll kind of imagine the model in that color and decide if it's what I'm looking for, right? So, I mean, and it takes time to do that, but you know what? You're going to waste more time just kind of sitting there going apathetically, I don't want to paint, or going to watch TV or to do something else, right? You're going to waste a lot more time like tuning into Netflix because you think you can't paint than you are by sitting down and engaging with your hobby and getting excited about a model and like staring at colors until one of them kicks you in between the eyes. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Thormal, that's a great one. If you're running a game, like picking out a model that will make your players hate you is often, if you are an evil GM, most of us have a tiny little sliver of evil in our hearts, you know it. If you're an evil GM, that can be very motivating. Or for me, like when I was in my worst funk ever was when I picked up my Soldier 76 model. And that was like a hugely ambitious project for somebody who had been in a horrible slump for a long time. I'd been burned out. And I did it anyway because I loved the game so much. I was watching Overwatch League a lot with a bunch of Overwatch friends. And so working on Soldier and then posting a picture, like I would work on it while I watched and listened to the games. And then I would post a picture at the end of my session. And that's where having a group of people can really help you. Yeah, that's totally. Yeah, taking a small break to organize things so that you feel you can work is also a great thing to do. All right, so let's put another glaze on here. I think this is going to take it. I'm going to actually try it up here on this. I don't know. Actually, I like it. I like the sleeves a lot. I had to be careful here. I don't want to go too orange. I want it to still read yellow, but I don't want to. I'm really debating because I feel like the front. I'm just going to put a little bit more here. Also, another trick you can do with glazes once you apply them is to grab some water, and while your brush is wet, just feather out the glaze before it dries. So you can add and experiment a little bit with warming up a section without like sacrificing your highlights down here. But I think that's actually a good yellow. If I go more, I think I'm going to lose the green. I'm going to get too warm, and I wanted a green. I wanted kind of a chartreuse yellow here. So. But yeah, taking a break, I mean, moving has been a boon for me because I I've been forced to reorganize and reassess things. So now I've got this big reorg. I've got a bunch of models sitting out that I bought, you know, that I love. And I love, honestly, guys, even though it's kind of a waste of time, I love sitting down with like 30 models around me, maybe even 40, and just looking at all of them and really listening to my gut and saying, can I see myself painting this? Is this really like exciting me right now? Do I really want to start this model? You know, and kind of making them fight for my love. Like, I love it. I love doing that. I feel like it leads me to the model that I most want to paint. So, alrighty, we've got that. Let's get our wilderness green and start sketching in more. Hey, I picked it the first time. Wilderness green is the dark green on Lysette, on the bodice and on the skirt. Let's make sure we're in focus. There we go. But yeah, so that is the green was here and on the cuffs as well. Repeat your colors. Remember, repeat your colors around the model. Even the darks, it can be useful. I was just mentioning to somebody the other day, we were talking about color blindness. And one of the things you can do to not really worry about it is to pick a dark color that you consistently mix into your midtones for shadows. Because you can really shade with anything if it's dark. So you could use Nightshade Purple to shade every color on your model. And it would essentially make it easier for you to have, it'll make a more coherent and cohesive look to your mini to use the same color to shade. So here are the only place we haven't used the wilderness. I haven't used it here on the purple or on the brown because the brown one is darker. So if I'd really wanted to get that kind of effect, I would have actually used this brown to shade everything. It would have worked on the yellow, but we wouldn't have gotten that green shadow that we wanted. So for this model, not as ideal, but I definitely had a strong color identity for this model. If you are stuck, and you could choose, I choose walnut a lot this way because I find that a little bit of walnut mixed into pretty much anything makes a convincing shadow. Don't we have zombie mouselings? Haven't I seen zombie mouselings? Like, isn't that a thing? I thought there were zombies. Like, I can't see that not being a thing already. I thought that they existed. All right, so let's do tree. Tree. Interesting. For something in my head says that at some point in the past, there have been zombie mouselings. John, do you know? Have there been zombie mouselings? Make sure you mix up your greens really well. When you've got anything with blue pigment in it or even green pigment, those pigments are really fine and they tend to kind of separate out. That's why when you see water or the fluid on top of a paint bottle that's separated, often you'll see a blue or kind of purple shift or a green shift. Yeah, I put away the ones that are not immediately, I put them actually in a box away. And lately, my strategy has been when I first get a new model, I take it out and I look at it, and then I put it back away completely out of sight. And what that does for me, because I'm just a silly, simple Ann brain, is that it resets my brain. So when I get that model out again, it's going to feel like new. Like I only looked at it once. So it's going to, when I pick it out again, it's going to really like, oh, wow, I remember this, you know, that kind of thing. If I leave it out of my shelf staring at me, my mind gets really sick of it. And actually, I'll be more likely to put it away and not paint it. Everybody's different, but if you have that kind of brain, like kind of figure out how to game yourself. Gaming the system. There were zombie mouselings. See, I thought so too, Inara. Was it for a special thing? Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm glad that you like how it turned out, Bob and Julie. I feel like I could have done it better if I wasn't painting it on stream. But I feel like I was pretty happy with how it turned out. 2 dragons fighting is awesome. It just takes a long time. All right, so we want to thin our paint with a little bit of water. This is about, I would say, about a 4 or 5 to 1. So it's still pretty. It's base coat consistency almost. But if I drag my brush through it, it closes back up. See how it closes back up behind my brush? That's key. You want enough flow for the paint to self-level. that's the minimum you want to do fine lines. Limited edition. Oh, they must have been a limited release. I knew they were out there, though. I knew zombie mouselings had been done. Thanks for looking that up, Tehran. Yeah, that's true. If you sweet talk Ron, you might be able to get Reaper to bring him back. So, alrighty. Where is our... I need my visual reference. There we go. There's our tree. All right, so we have this little spiral here. We have this little spiral back here. We've got our big arcing... I think that's actually the little arcing branch. It's that one. So the next one I need to do is this big one here and this big one here. So I've got to see if I have enough room here to bring these out and make them look good. So I am going to make kind of a little mental note here of how this works. So this branch comes in kind of like, it echoes the curve of this one. And I made this a little bigger here. I may regret that. We'll see. But I do know that this little branch out here, this where it goes to this point, is also this dot because we did a connect the dots. So I know that whatever I do with this branch, it's going to end out here. And this branch is going to kind of come across the top, and it's going to be a little bit more recessed because it doesn't quite come out to that extent, right? It's a little bit inner. See, you can see this one goes out, this one ends a little bit more inside. I don't know whether we'll be able to do the circle or much of this, but we're going to figure it out once we've got the main branches in, then we're going to elaborate. And we probably won't necessarily use a lot of the exact shapes in here, although I am going to use a couple of the exact shapes down here to bring our roots out and up. But we're not quite there yet. So we'll use this as a guide. You use your visual reference as a guide, but feel free to spring off of it once you feel you've got the essence of the design down. So you don't have to feel like you have to do every little root here. That's just not going to work. But you want to generalize in a way that makes it obvious that these are roots on your actual model. So there we go. So let us do that. Let us work on this then. So the first one I'm going to put in, since I have this guideline dot, is going to be that branch. And I'm going to start, as mentioned, with a thicker paint. I may thin it just a little bit. This is an example also of a technique where you might want to add a little extra flow improver, especially when you're working with a slightly thicker paint. Sometimes the surface area tension breaking thing works. I also have to look. Okay, so it goes down. And then it goes up in a curve. You can see it. And then you can do that. You can always do a line in a couple parts. Don't think you need to nail the line out the gate. When you're working around other lines, most of the time you won't be able to nail the line out the gate. You actually do it in a couple of different parts to make sure that you've got the right distance between the parts. So there's another limb there. And I might have enough room to do the ball shape. So I'll actually add that little limb in right here. It's a big round circle. It is a little hard for this paint to come off of this brush. And that is because I'm working with thicker paint, because I wanted the line to be darker. So now I'm going to make that little circle there. And then I've got the big branch, the big overarching branch, which is this one that comes almost all the way around. Oops, sorry. This one that comes almost all the way around. And that's just a simple arc. It's going to be right between this. And I've got to kind of keep it, it's going to connect up with this circle-y thing on the other side, kind of. It's going to get close to it. So, and it's a pretty smooth curve. So I'm just going to aim for a smooth curve. Let me get a little bit closer here. There. And you do want to have some moisture in your brush. No matter what's, you should also not use a tiny brush for this. You should use a brush that's a little larger with a good tip. As you know, I kind of squeeze my brush out on my hand. That means that there's still enough moisture in here. You can see that the brush is still wet. You can see that it's kind of holding together. You can see the little shimmer of moisture there. Yeah, so it's not, you want it to be, to have water in it so that it holds a perfect point. And that water will help keep your paint, when you load your brush, that water will help keep your paint from drying out on that tip. So the moisture back here, even though it's not a lot, is enough. Because if it was dry back here, then the paint would start drying out from there, and it's drying out from here. So that's why your paint gets really, you know, it dries out too fast on your brush. But when you've preloaded your brush with a bit of water and just squeezed it out enough to get a good tip, then you don't get drying from this direction. So that helps your paint stay wet. And this works even on tiny brushes. It's actually the technique that you want to use if you must use a tiny brush. Let's see. So I want the end point here to be about here. And the start point's there. And it's going to... Oh, pardon. I need another reference. I could just kind of extrapolate. Okay. It's got a lot of branches kind of in between. So that's why it's very close to this one. So I do want it closer to the upper than to the lower. So I'm going to do another dot. Remember, whenever you're doing freehand, connect the dots. It's much easier if you're like, okay, I need to remember that this is going to be a curving branch and I need it to stay closer to this up branch than this down one. So I may as well put a tiny little dot there to show me that's where I want it to go. And then I can just connect the two sections. Again, you don't have to draw a perfect continuous curved line. You just want enough. And then draw one piece, and then you know you just need this arc here. So break it down. Freehand is so simple if you just break it down. And work on your brush control. Do lining. Do lining, attempt to find detail. If you find, I know this has been a complaint about like the Dungeons and Doggies stuff that I like, but it is a lot of tiny details on those little animals, and it can be very, very good practice for fine detail work. Oh, there we go. Dark Heaven Legends. 1512 is a zombie mousling. There we go. Oh, yeah. You need to brush with a tip like that. Raphael. It's the Raphael 8408. It's hard to... I had trouble finding more of them, but all of the Raphaels have great tips in general. This is just the pointed, the extra pointed round, so it has this long, like, just needle tip that I really like. That could be fun, Twisted Oma, because you could be like, I need to organize my mouselings, and to reward myself for organizing my mouselings, I will choose one to paint. So then you can, like, in the process of labeling and putting them away, you can make them fight for your love. And then you get to paint a mouseling. Okay, so now the paint is thick enough that I am getting a little bit, because it's drying pretty fast. We're pretty arid today, I think, out here. So I am going to add one more drop of water, which is going to take it more to a 3-to-1. But now that I have my main lines sketched out, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it being a little more transparent. Now my job is just to thicken these lines and to create new lines that kind of flesh out the tree. So the tree is starting to look like a tree, but let's get it kind of stabilized, and then we can work on little extra frills and twirls and stuff to make our tree design get elaborate. And at that point, how elaborate you want to get is limited only by your ability and your imagination. So, like, how much work you want to do. Like, for example, this one right here, this branch does split off and go this way to balance off this gap that we see here. So I'll probably thicken this branch a little bit more toward the middle and then, like, bring a branch off. It'll bury it under the scabbard, but that's okay. You don't have to, like, you also don't have to, brain. You don't see all of the design. This is true of tartans especially. If the tartan disappears into a fold, all you have to do is approximate what it would come out and how it would look. Nobody's going to actually try to do the math. So you just need to make the pattern, like, if the overall pattern is clear, you can have small parts of it disappear and the design will still carry. All right, let's mix up our paint and get at it. Get it, making these lines a little bit darker. And I may decide that I want to mix just a little bit of an even darker green in here. to make the design stand out more. I'll make that call after I've thickened up these lines a bit. But yeah, I feel like now after moving that all my models are more or less organized. I need to organize kind of my top shelf models, my ones that are really good that I definitely like feel like I want to paint in the future. I need to go through and just make sure that I've kind of got them in boxes by priority. Yeah, so I'm just going to thicken up these lines, although not when they get toward the end, because tree branches get, you know, thinner toward the tips. So I want this to be a definitive line, but I don't want it to get too thick. I'm going to push that back so you guys can see a little better. There we go. Thicken that line up. Make it just a little bit thick so we can really see it there. Just looking at this, I do think I'm probably going to need a little bit more dark, a little bit more definition. Uh-oh, I see an ant. 1 second. Insects are not allowed in my work area, ant. Ah, I know it was just like doing its ant things, but bugs in the house like are one of my things. I feel sad when I squish spiders, but I still squish them. If I can rescue them, I will, but... and put them outside. All right, so now I've got this branch. Let's take a little bit more of this green and actually suggest that branch coming off on this side. Thicken up the trunk here. Make it a little darker. We'll see. This may be a dark enough green, or I may need to add just a little bit. I don't think it's really necessary. I mean, to be honest, a quick list is probably good enough. And then if you feel like typing it up so that you can search on a document to see if you have a given mouse link, that's probably enough. Like, if it depends on what your purpose is in doing that. If you're trying to keep yourself from buying duplicate mouselings, then you definitely want to know what you've got. For myself, it's enough just to have like all of a particular type of a mini in one box. So all my Lord of the Rings models are in one box. All of my, all of my Muse models are in one box. That makes it very easy for me to find what I need. If a mini is out of packaging, then I put it in a transparent bag so I can easily identify it. And sometimes mark it on the outside. But I've also pared down on my collection a lot. Like, David has a lot more than I do, and he was like, when we were moving, because he had so much. All right, let's see here. Let's get this tree branch. I'm not really happy with this top tree branch. I feel like it got a little wobbly. I blurfed a little. So the dangerous thing about doing dark freehand on light is that if you blorf, you've got a bit of work ahead of you. If you blorf, you have to like go back with white to kind of cover up that little blorf, because otherwise your yellow is never going to cover over it. So you do have to touch up with a little bit of white first and then go over it with the yellow. So you may as well do all of your tree, solidifying and do your blorfs and leave them and then go and clean everything up at once. It saves you time and effort. This is why I often gravitate toward doing lighter freehand on a dark background. I feel it's much easier to correct, to make little corrections, which inevitably you have to do. Yep, same thing, Inara. Although I've got so few, or I could bring it out to a little branch, but the problem is it's near the end, Twisted Oma. I'm not like, I'm all for doing that sort of thing. If it was like back in here, absolutely, I would just make it a branch. But near the end, it's supposed to be narrow and thin down there to be elegant. And so I'm going to be persnickety about that. I'm not going to leave it there. I am a persnickety sort of Anne. I am kind of a perfectionist. I try to rein that in a lot of the time in my creative process because you're never going to get to perfect. But with little things like that, I will take the extra time to clean them up, especially if I really like the model and I want it to look really good. And I like the way this Lysette is coming out. So I do want to make sure that I correct it. But I'm going to wait because I'm probably going to blorf again somewhere. And then I can fix all my blorfs at once. Plastic tubs too. Yeah, like the novelty wears off the minute that you really, really want to start a model, and it's like you have limited time in the evening, and then you exhaust all of your painting time looking through boxes. Then it's I guess it depends on your mindset. Like some people would just like enjoy the process of searching through the mystery box, and that would be enough. And some people would get frustrated because they actually wanted to get some work done. Because they were in the mood, and then they wasted their urge to paint. They wasted their excite moment. Because I know when I get really excited about a project, I got to start it right away, or I'll lose it. It's move it or lose it. If I start the project right away, then that keeps me going, the fact that I've started it. But if I do not start it right away, by the time the next day comes, I'm not going to be that excited about it. I'm maybe going to be just a little excited about it. But I won't have that immense urge to start. So I think we have to totally carpe diem when you get that urge to start a project and you're super excited about it. Do not put off starting it. Take a few steps on it that night or day, whenever it happens. Yeah, I don't take them out of the box until I'm going to paint them to Agent Marvel because then I lose it. I lose the enthusiasm. Yeah, yep. Yep. Yeah, see, I find that a lot of guys are like that. Some women as well that I've known, but a lot of guys like to put it together, right? Especially if it's a multi-piece model. And then they don't mind sitting and staring at it for a little while before they start it. Whereas that would drive me nuts. Like, I just want to start. So we're just slowly, this is mapping out freehand. That's what I call it. Where you're establishing, see, I blurfed a little bit there. You're establishing your major lines. I'm just going to try to put some water. Yay, I did it. Water worked. If you catch it fast enough, you can use some water and kind of scrub it. You have to have a pretty delicate touch to do that. But it does work. So I'm going to reinforce this branch on here. So I'm going to thicken up and reinforce. The tree is starting to come out, you see? And remember that we still have roots to do out here too, to bring it up. And I may actually make the roots trail more over here. I'll depart from my initial design a little bit just to carry some of this freehand out to here since the skirt is widening. Yeah, plastic boxes from IKEA is a good organizational system. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whatever you have to do to like keep organized but still keep inspired. Like, and for some people, keeping organized is a big help in keeping inspired, right? For me, I feel far more likely to sit down and get some painting in if my work area is inviting and clear. Whereas if I've got a bunch of crap all over it, then I don't feel like it's inviting. I don't feel like I want to sit down and use it. So be aware of your own foibles. Some people thrive in a chaotic mess, and that's where they're happiest creating. And some people really do like kind of like a clean slate every time they sit down. So figure out which you are or where you fall in the middle and kind of what your ideal work environment is and try to cultivate that. Like do everything you can to get closer to that ideal. Because the easier you make it for yourself to sit down and paint, the more painting you're going to do. Yeah, it isn't fun. I always want to start when I want to start. Like sometimes it's fun. I don't actually put lists on the outside of the boxes, but the minute I look inside the box, I will know what's in it because I put all of my same manufacturer minis together. So I know that if I want my Confrontation Wolfen, they are in that box because there I open it up, there's a Wolfen on top, there I know. And I try to keep the like models alike. And often if I make a new box, I'll make the box, and if there's more than one manufacturer that goes in it, it'll be like, I did 3 Kickstarters last year. I did Limbo, I did the Camelot one from Big Child, and I did the Muses. So all of those Kickstarters are associated in my head because I got them all very, very close together. So they will go in the same box. So I'll know the minute I open it, oh, this is that box. So whatever kind of organization works for you, whether it's more organic like mine or making a list or a spreadsheet or plopping it on the outside. I mean, all it really takes is some identifying words to tell you what's in that box. Just like when you're moving, you don't always put, like everything that's in a box, but you might put, like I had, art books and con folder, because it was important to know that the con folder was in that box since we were about to go to a con. There we go. We're getting this more sketched out. Our tree's pretty. Like, our tree's looking really pretty. I like it so far. Oh, yeah. Hey, but if that's your productive area, if that's the way you work, Rick, then do it. It's all about different people really, really have different ways of working, different happy states to work in. I mean, look at any fine artist, right? Some people keep their studios really, really organized and clear, like James Gurney. And others, like Jackson Pollock or some, other people have paint all over the place, half-finished canvases all over the place, and that's their creative zone, right? There is no better or worse. It's just, do you actually sit down and create? And if that's the environment that you optimally create in, then win, right? I lost some of the chat. Hold on, chat. I'm going to come and read you. I actually missed something up there. Oh, yeah, Rapster, I see it. Yeah. Yeah, it does feel good to go back to old minis, especially if you still like them. Yeah. Yes, I am all the way. I actually feel that. I was able to be a much more chaotic workspace person when I was younger in college and stuff. And even like when I was at Reaper. But then I started actually noticing. I think it wasn't so much that I needed it, so much that I noticed it more. Like I started realizing, hey, I feel better about painting when I have a nice, clear, clean area in front of me. Once I made that notice, then I started actively moving toward that. So yeah, it could be both, right? It could be just that as I got older, I needed it more, and so I noticed it, or vice versa. Reaper to resort, it's fine. All right, let me see here. I need the roots. We need to do roots, everybody. The roots are quite a tumble on this concept art. So I did this branch, but now I need to do a branch just under it, and I need to do this branch that springs off of it. So once again, I'm kind of going with what are my main forms here. Ignore all this stuff. This is just random. Like I can do a whole bunch of little swoops coming out and fork a bunch of them and I'll be fine. But here I've got this big root here that curves out, and I've got this root that comes off of this. So I need these 2 roots. So let's put this guy in. And then I want to make a root that kind of comes off of this one and comes off of that one. They kind of interlace. So, and again, if I don't exactly duplicate it, I'm fine. Oh, is Twitch twitchy? My programming says I'm good. All right, so let's get that second branch in. It's going to come and kind of connect down here. So I think I'm going to use that line, and I'm going to connect it up. Oh, I see. Yeah, if everybody's not getting a problem, then you're probably, it's local. The other advantage of having this green be maybe a little lighter than I would otherwise want it is that it is a little easier to touch up if I make a mistake. So I've got my other swoopy thing. Swoopy thing. And then swoopy thing will kind of get close to that other branch, but swoopy thing has this then that goes up above the branch and goes over. So I'm going to try to kind of keep close to the design that we picked. I'll keep close to it for as long as it's convenient for me, but I'm not like super must be close. That branch. That branch, and then it's going to go over. And I am going to extend it a little bit more down here. Okay, audio is good. Yeah, I'm not sure. All right, so now if I'm working directly kind of from the pattern, I'm going to have it open on my phone, try to keep it open. Or have it open on a computer next to you so that you can look at it. But the phone is nice because it's right next to the model. I can fit it right next to the model. Okay, so that comes down, and then there is a branch that comes over and up. Reload brush. And one of the key things is to keep these bottom lines equidistant. Like they should always be they should stop a certain distance from the hem in order for the design to look self-contained. I'm sorry guys that you got a bit of twitching. Oh no, Carrie. Oh noes. Yeah, my internet, my OBS says it's good. I'm not dropping frames. Yeah. Looks like it might be. Dang you, Twitch. Just when we're doing fun stuff. And I'm going to go up to there. There. Trail off that way, and then we'll also actually probably trail it off on this way. And I'm actually going to curl the tip, I think. Just give it kind of a flourish. And make it look like it's ending there. And maybe I'll do a little bit of an extra flourish on it to make it look like that's where the design ends. Sometimes you want to do something that implies like an extra little swirl that implies a finish. Hello, Roll to Explode. Hey, how's it going? My stream is a little bit choppy right now. Twitch is being twitchy, but I hope you guys have fun. Welcome. I, of course, am Anne, and this is Reaper Pro-Tips, where we sit and paint about 6 different models in a row, in pieces. So today it's Lysette, and I'm working on this tree freehand. We're working from a design I found online. That's that, which is a lot more too complicated to really do the whole thing on here, but we are using it as a starting point. Because on the front we have the leaves, because she decided to go kind of wood elf with her, with leaves and flowers. And then on the back we're doing a tree. So, because I was looking for something that would fill this space really well. Yeah, so we'll do this. I think that's good. Which makes this an asymmetrical design, but I kind of like that, especially when you've got, as a lot of capes tend to swirl off, on one side or the other. Having an asymmetrical design makes sense. So we're just adding a little bit of a curl to the end of the roots here to kind of imply a finishing point on this side, which is not in the original design, but works. All right. Good luck at the doctor, Carrie Michael. Thank you for lurking. Hey, we love viewer count. So we're mapping in, it's quite called blocking intermapping in Freehand, where you just work on the main sections. After you've got your main branches or tendrils or knotwork or, whatever you're doing, when you've got your main lines in place, then it's easy to just kind of elaborate, put a few extra little branches and bits and twirls in. But you need that framework first to make sure that it comes together. So that's why once I had this down here, I knew I was fine. I was going to be able to do roots just fine, and just kind of freehand them. Like one root needs to come down here where this dot, that's the bottom where I wanted the bottom of the design. And I'm going to fork this root actually. And kind of make it come off at a fork. And then we can continue with this here, and I can thicken this up so that it's more of a tree trunk and make more roots coming out. And after I've got all of this mapped in, then if I've made any blorfs or mistakes like I did over here, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to clean up all of them at once. Much easier than having to mix up, because I'm going to need to get some white and some other yellows. And so it's much easier to do all those at once than it is to try to do them as you make the mistake. So just kind of remember where it is. Sometimes if I'm working on a very large model, I will actually write down a list on a sticky note, fix blorf on left knee, fix blorf on hem, just to remind myself so that I remember everything that I need to fix. Blorf being a technical term. And I'm solidifying and painting in this trunk a bit more. Just as the design progresses, I'm going to thicken and darken all of my main lines so that I can really see the design and see where I might need more. Oh no. Oh, that's funny. Trashorama. Yeah, that sounds something I'd be susceptible to. Yeah, I hope Quindy's okay. I miss our Quindy. I'm doing just a little bit of root work here. Some of these will fork and some of these we won't. Just kind of sketching in a little bit of tendrils to get myself a start on filling in this area. I'm going to bring this in and bring it out. And then we're going to do what we did on the other side and bring in a crossing root right there. Hey, Maharoon. Wow, it's the morning of rating. I have only about 20 minutes left. I should probably get up and stretch, actually. Yeah, we haven't heard from her since the hurricane twisted Oma. We're trying not to over worry because, like, if it's just a matter of she has lost internet or whatever, we're just kind of in waiting mode to see. Hopefully she is okay. Okay, she'll be back. Got it. Okay, so she's all right. She's just like taking a hiatus because she probably has real life stuff she needs to deal with. Got it. Totally fair. And yeah, thanks for filling in, Reaper John and Trash. It is great to have you guys as well. We appreciate the work you do. And then I want to break this up a little bit. Then there comes a point where you just start using your gut feel, where you're like, well, there's this big, long, open space here. I think I actually want a root down there. Just a little bit of one to break that space up. And this root forks before it comes out and does that. And then you're filling it in like so. And once we do a lot more little twirly branches up here, we'll have a lot more of a tree up here, but I want to kind of get this base set. And I'm going to depart from our original, probably just a little bit again over here. And remember to make your roots a little bit thicker when they're more toward the body of the tree, and to thin them out as they go out more. That kind of tapered look is important. So I mentioned, I think, oh, I didn't, maybe I did mention to you guys, or maybe I didn't. That's the first time. I bought an air fryer. I finally went in on it, and it arrived on Saturday, and I made bacon in it on Sunday morning, and then today I used it to crisp up a leftover croissant from yesterday, a sesame croissant that was left over. And it did a good job of both, although the bacon did want to blow around a little bit, so I have to figure out a way to secure the bacon. Yeah, lots of stuff to deal with. Yep, yeah, it's Wilderness Green, which is the same green color that we did with her bodice and her background of her inner skirt and her cuffs on the front of the model, Duke. So now I'm pretty happy. Like, I need to sketch in that particular root right there, but the roots are looking pretty good. Maybe a little bit more over here. And then we can work on the branches. There we go. I want to keep it visible. Like, it's cool to go down to fine detail if you can, but you don't have to. Like, go super fine if you don't want to. You just want it to look good. Oh, yeah. Yeah, lots of crazy weather. Starting to feel a bit more like fall is coming out here. We definitely had some heat waves. It got pretty hot yesterday. So just going over these roots to thicken them a little bit more as they get more toward the trunk and make them nice and dark so that we get that effect. I need it to be crisp, so at the end, like, I may indeed darken down this color to make the design a little bit more crisp, or I may not. I'm not certain yet. We will see. I feel like I need just a little bit more coverage to get a more solid line on my tree here. But that can always, you can always go over the design with something a little bit darker once you've got it. And having it be a little transparent when you first put it down is not a detriment. Oh, is Twitch still being annoying? Yeah, that's primarily why I got it, Mage, is because I had hot wings the other day, and it was the first time I'd had them in a while. And I realized I miss hot wings, and I want to... And I've thought about the air fryer for several years, but it didn't really make sense until I moved in with David. And then now it makes sense. Like, now it makes good small meal portions for two of us. And I can also set it to go while I'm cooking other aspects of the meal, which I really like. So yeah, we're going to be experimenting a lot with it. David calls it my new obsession. But I think this one, like I have an Instant Pot too, and there are certain things the Instant Pot is good for, and I know people do a lot of different stuff in the Instant Pot, but I feel like the air fryer is actually more versatile. I mostly got my Instant Pot because I already needed to replace my slow cooker, and I figured that the added functionality would be useful, and it is. But I think I could get to really like the air fryer. All right, getting that little branch kind of circling a bit more around that sphere of branches. Let's thicken up these branches as they get close to the trunk, so we're getting a more tree-y feel. And I'll come through, I need to come through and solidify this area actually, so let's just do that. I lost some of my angularity here, but I should be able to regain it just by bringing down a bit. And I feel like I could still do an extra branch here as well. Just a little bit more interlacing down there. And again, if I don't like any of these lines, if I decide, hey, that was a mistake, I need to not do that particular line, it doesn't look good, then I just fix it when I fix my blorfs. That's a good time to deal with all of that sort of stuff. There we go. Now let's thicken up these branches. And although I am using a big brush with a very fine tip, any brush size with a very fine tip can be used for this. If you use a tiny brush for it, you're going to have to reload a lot more. I'm able to go a lot farther with this guy. But you certainly can use any brush with a good tip. If you don't have a good quality sable like we have, you could just essentially use a brand new Taklon, one that still has a really good tip. For me, that doesn't cut it anymore because I like to do really, really fine details. So I'm always going to pay the money for a really good brush. For me, it is worth it. Now we've got that starting to solidify a little bit more. I can thicken this branch up a little bit. And I want to thicken this branch up a little bit. Not going to smoke them. Don't have a smoker. I prefer my chicken wings pretty straight up. Had a smoker for a while in my previous house, previous existence, but just too much work. I will leave smoking to my friends who like adore it. Like where there are people who are so obsessed with it. Like that is totally for them. Good for them. But I don't know. There we go. Flats for sure. I'm a flats girl. I do not like drummies. I used to, when I went to Buffalo Wild Wings, I would request more flats than drummies. I was that person. There we go. Let's solidify that branch. But yeah, I'm excited to try wings because I love them. And I do my own homemade teriyaki sauce, so I can totally make a killer teriyaki wing sauce. I'll start experimenting with some more. I also do pretty good Indian curry at this point, so making like an Indian or Thai curry sauce to toss the wings in would be awesome too. And I can control the ingredients, which is nice if I make it myself. So there we go. That's coming along very nicely. Feel like I need some more branches coming out of the top of that one. Let's look at what our design wanted us to do. All right, so the design actually does have a little bit of a swirl and another spike coming out of that top, and then it's got a couple of little spurs. I don't think I've got room for the spurs because we don't have any room right here. But I can totally do the swirl coming up here if I'm good. Yeah, I don't have a slow cooker. I decided to just get the Instant Pot. So I got the Instant Pot with the glass cover, and it works as a slow cooker. I don't do very much slow cooked. I do corned beef and cabbage. I'll do my corned beef in the slow cooker for St. Patrick's Day. And I do certain stews, but like when I do sog, Indian sog with the spinach, I'll do it in the Instant Pot on slow cook. But otherwise, most stews, I actually prefer to do it more traditional in the oven in my Le Creuset. So I think I probably use the Instant Pot more as a pressure cooker than as a slow cooker. My slow cooker was just never used like immensely a lot. But I also like to cook. So it was never like I was just looking for something I could toss in to have it cook all day, right? Kind of thing. Although it is really nice for things like corned beef. Maybe do a little swirl there. But yeah, I could totally see how they're all usable for all different things. I do like how you can do a lot of different stuff with the Instant Pot. Like, I would not have thought that it would do a decent brown on stuff, but it actually does a decent brown on pork chops. Like, I was pretty happy with it. Got a couple little tendrils there coming off the top now, and I'm probably going to suggest another one. Yeah, I think I am going to have to go for a darker green at the very end. I'm going to have to darken this down a little bit. I may just add a tiny bit of walnut to this. I just want a little more contrast. And I feel like that I'm fighting the coverage of the Wilderness Green. Wilderness Green straight, like straight out of the bottle or like at a 5 or 6 to 1 typically does have really good coverage. But when you thin it enough to do fine lines with it, that's when you lose a little bit and you get more of a sketchy look, which for factoring in, for doing this freehand is good. The sketchiness is good because then it's easier to correct because it's not as harsh. But there does definitely come a point where you might want a more solid line. And a more solid fill. And so I feel like I'll end up going that way with this. I want to look at that little tendril out here now. Yeah, okay, so that little tendril has a little branch coming up and a little hook. I think I can do the branch. So branch, and then it hooks. You won't see the whole thing, but you can at least suggest it. And then the little curl, but not a real curl. Just a little bit. This is where you're limited by your fine motor control. So if you want to be able to do little tiny curly cues and stuff, work on your lining and on models where you have to do a lot of fine detail work if you want to be able to do micro stuff, because it's all practice. It's all just building your muscle memory. So in general, if you do not have like a nervous disorder or other things that can impact your control, but in general, if you practice, you will get better. But yeah, I actually had a little cake pan for my my slow cooker in case I ever wanted to try to bake something in it. But that makes a lot more sense in the air fryer, so I'm totally going to try to make brownies tonight in the air fryer. Because why not? So here I'm going to have to ask myself if this little curly cue is a little too much. And it'll depend on how much detail I'm putting in the rest of the tree. This is an example where something a little darker would show up a little bit better. A little crisper. So I'm going to question whether I really want to do that particular little curly cue. I may come back and block that one out. And that's why you're just kind of blocking in and elaborating. And then you kind of take a look at it at the end and say, okay, does this feel right? Does this feel like what I wanted? And kind of looking for places that are where the detail is muddy too. I don't want muddy detail. All right, let's see what I'm supposed to do with the rest of these branches. All right, so this branch down here has an additional curl inside of it. That's pretty cool. The circle here has curly cues coming off of it. This has a curly cue coming down. Let's try that one and then see what I can do. I feel like I'm not going to have room for the curly cue here, but I'm going to have room for a curly cue here for sure. So I can make a curly cue coming off there. So I think I'll try that. And then we'll try an additional curly cue inside there. So we're going to make it come off a little bit higher because of the space we have to work with. And then we're going to make a tiny curly cue here. And when I first bring it in, it's going to be really, really light. See how light it is? Use the pressure cooker more. Yeah. Well, Instapot is technically, should be much the same as a pressure cooker, right? I guess they're just different, slightly different beasts as far as how they work. Anyway, we want this to be really, really faint when I first draw it in because we want room to correct it. And the more faint it is, the more easy it is to correct the shape while it's still in those early stages. Then once you've got a line that you like, you can start reinforcing it and making it bigger. Oh, and it's about time to start wrapping. So I want to put a little curl inside of this. Try to be careful. Try to get it really, it's a little wobbly there, but I'm going to work with it because I can always clean up that wobbly bit. There we go. Yeah, it's a little wobbly, but I think I'm good with it. I'm gonna be all right with it. Once I take off that little bit, I think it's gonna be just fine. That looks pretty good. Yeah, they're decent. Yeah, chat's live. I think people are just working. It's Monday. We're all trying to get stuff done, so you all are kindly tuning in to listen to me prattle while you work on your real jobs, quote unquote. Which I appreciate immensely. Add a little swirl in the middle here. I like that one. That one turned out well. Twitch is really having an issue today. I'm sorry, guys. Super sorry. Trying to just see if there's anything on the bottom side of this branch. But actually, they keep the bottom side of this branch pretty clean here. But I feel like I need something here. I don't know. Maybe I just need to kind of like give it a little bit more of a branch. Maybe I need to, instead of doing this branch, which I don't have necessarily room for between those sections, then I'm going to bring a branch down. I feel like I want just a little more elaboration here, because everything here is getting very tight and very filled with detail, but this is still pretty blank. So, hey Gent, thanks for the reprime. Or reprime. Reprime, resub, resomething. Yes, thank you very much. 22 months. 2 more months and I get to sing. Yeah, we're just wrapping up today. I just want to put one more little branch on here and then we'll recap and call it for the day. I need to go get my grocery shopping done and get my walk in. So I'm going to bring a little branch down here. Bring it out. Put a little tail on it. See if I like that. I don't want to lose all of my nice curve above it, but I do want to extend it a little bit more. Maybe I need to make a curving line instead there. It's pretty easy to turn an angle into a curve, so if you've got the room. Yeah, I feel like I need to trim it up. Trim it up, thicken more limbs, but I like that a little bit better. I feel like our tree is coming along. I feel like I do want an inner curve here. There we are. There we are. Now we're getting there. Yay! And I'm sure there are a little, probably a little branch coming off, like here or there. Let's just do one here. Just to give it a little bit more filled in space. And then I'm probably going to be pretty happy with this and just need to firm up my lines a little. Let's back out and see. I think I'm liking it. I think I'm liking that. Yeah, that's pretty. Like I still need to, I feel like I still need to crisp it a little bit and make it just a little bit darker in some places. Naan Bread. Yeah, is Rhonda on tonight? Yes, Rhonda is on this afternoon. Excellent. I haven't tried to make naan bread because since I'm gluten-free, I tend to avoid. The sesame croissant was an exception because I had them left over from restaurant last night. And they were so good, I had to try it. But yeah, I haven't made, I suppose I could make gluten-free and low-carb naan bread. It would be different, though. It wouldn't be like, you know, like your usual naan. So, yeah, I don't know. I think the secret to naan is, like, you need that grill heat, right? Maybe you need a flat-top grill or try it on a regular grill because it needs to get that pocket, right? They did it on, I forget which show they did it on. It may have been the Bake Off. May have been Great British Baking Show, where they actually had them cook outside in one of the episodes. I'm trying to remember, but I think they did. I think they had them actually try to make a flatbread on like a campfire, if I recall right. I think it was that. But anyway, all right, guys, what we did today is we hung out and did this tree. We got it properly treed up. We solidified all of our major lines, and then we blocked in all of our major root work, and then we focused on filling in some of the negative space with swirls. We more or less followed our base drawing, our inspirational drawing, our pattern for inspirational purposes, but we diverged from it in a couple of places where we felt that there just wasn't enough room. So yeah, I feel like I need just a little bit of dark. Like I need to add just a little bit of a darker green just to get a more solid etching. But I like how it's turning out. I love the design. I think it looks really good on the skirt. So I haven't done like a freehand like this without a border or anything before. So it was a big experiment, but I think it's paying off. So yeah. So I've got our little tapestry freehand on the front, and then we'll have our big freehand on the back. And it gives us, usually a bunch of freehand low down on the model is a bad decision, but as long as you've got enough weight up top, or if you're on the back of the model, where you really, on the back of the model, really, it's less about where the visual interest is. It's more about having visual interest, because you want something on the back for people to look at. So it's less of a concern. Plus the white hair still draws your eye up. So yeah, so here it's the contrast of all this detail and the gemstone and her dark skin with the white hair that pulls your eyes up here, so it makes us able to put more of a subtle freehand down there. Yes, it's time to leave, but you'll get a Rhonda this afternoon, and I will be back tomorrow when we will be working on Bronze Golem, probably working on doing a bit more shading, and we'll start the highlighting on some of this stuff as well. Like I'll probably work on the shoulder here and more on the helmet. That is what I am thinking. Thank you all for yeah, time to leave. Oh, you're terrible, Trash. Terrible. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. Who are we gonna raid today, Reaper? Here, we'll go and stare at the tree. Reaper is like thinking. Reaper's like, I don't know who we're gonna raid. Oh, yawning. I needed more sleep this day. I need more sleep today, guys. You know, you have one of those days, like where it's like, God, I could have used another half hour at least. It's that kind of day. It's that kind of day. Wow. Okay. Do I have to text Justin? Like maybe I have to text Justin and say, raid, please. Or John, can you queue it up? Or maybe you're looking for people. Maybe there's no one. Aha, there we go. Dices. Awesome. We haven't raided Dices for a while. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I hope you had fun on the stream today. And we will be back. We'll be back tomorrow. So have a good one. Bye-bye.